This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people.
Woo! Trump wins and deep state, you're already on notice. Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my beautiful freedom-loving friend. This is where we like to call out the lies, hypocrisy, and corruption of tyrants and Satan, shine the light of awareness on woke absurdities, and highlight the amazing work of other freedom fighters, because truth conquers. And you know what truth is going to be conquering? The deep state, this shadowy organization that operates with lies, corruption, hypocrisy, manipulation, human rights violations, greed, and a thirst for control. And the very man that they went way out of their way to prevent from getting elected president through investigations that we can't even imagine, prosecutions, indictments, arrests, convictions, assassination attempts, bullets to the ear, the man of President Trump, who of course has won the election. There is no other single person, I believe, that the deep state considers to be a threat. And just like the old meme you've seen of Trump sitting there saying, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just in the way. And I'm glad he's in the way, and I'm glad you and I are getting in the way of the deep state. So, topic at hand, President-elect Donald J. Trump, and also just legit president. He was the 45th president, now 47th president. I really like the sound of that. President Trump has released a video about not only stating he will dismantle the deep state, but because this dude knows talk is cheap, he lays out a point-by-point plan on how he's going to do it. And I'd imagine the deep state are having a little bit of diarrhea right now, a little bit of anxiety in their stomach, and they're feeling a little bit nervous. So we're going to take a look at that together, and keep in mind, he's not only saying, I'm going to dismantle deep state, unlike someone like Kamala who says, you know, we're going to make things better. Do you have a plan for that? Well, no, but we're going to hope it happens. President Trump has a specific plan for that. So we're going to take a look at it together. But first, I'm going to define for you, once again, what I consider the deep state, because, you know, it's a shadow organization. A lot of us use the term and we don't necessarily know what we mean by it. I know what I mean by it. So here's my definition of the deep state. And I think the way President Trump talks about it, how I define it, seems very aligned with how he's talking about the deep state. My definition of the deep state is it's people in positions of power, unelected people in positions of power that use our elected leaders through bribes, corruption, blackmail, and coercion to do their bidding, which gains them more control while violating the constitutional rights of we the people. That's who the deep state is, according to me. And I believe it's a pretty accurate definition. So, deep state, you're on notice. Let's hear exactly what President Trump had to say about how he is going to dismantle the deep state.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all. And corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively.
Hear that, deep state? Rogue bureaucrats who are controlled by the deep state. Maybe they're part of the inner part of the deep state, but I doubt it. I think the deep state people that hold the puppet strings, I think they stay in the shadows. They don't have much light on them. So rogue Washington bureaucrats. President Trump is going to issue an executive order to remove you, and he's going to wield that power very aggressively. That makes me very happy.
Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus.
No. Mayorkas, how's the border security? Oh, you did lie under oath in Congress. That's fine.
And there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled.
Woo! The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled. Do you think the FBI has been weaponized against President Trump? Do you think the CIA has been weaponized? Do you think the FDA has been weaponized? Do you think the IRS, with 87,000 new agents under the Biden administration and millions of rounds of ammunition being purchased to use against U.S. citizens, do you think that's it all been weaponized? Do you think the DOJ has been weaponized in their investigations of President Trump and, oh yeah, Elon Musk? Woo! Three-letter agencies. Happy Friday. My friends, this is probably the biggest news story of my lifetime, this comeback victory for President Trump. But if you're like me, you realize there's a very strong liberal bias in the media. You probably have concerns of selective reporting around Trump, if not outright lies. And then throughout his presidency, how will he be portrayed by the leftist media? We know we can't trust mainstream media. That's why I'm here on Ground News, and you can check it out at ground.news/JPReacts, where you can get 50% off unlimited access to Ground News using my link. So check it out now. I want to show you something. So here on Ground News, I'm very excited to look at this headline. Donald Trump wins 2024 U.S. presidential election in historic comeback. And Ground News not only gives you a summary of the story, but they gather related articles from all around the world, all in one place, so you can compare how different outlets cover the same story. So you see there's 833 total sources on this story, 105 of them lean left, 88 lean right, 99 are center. And then you can sort the articles according to, do you want to see the left perspective? What are they saying? The center, the right's perspective. And of course, each publication will be labeled, they lean left, high factuality, and then who's funding it. So you know where your news is coming from and what their bias is, so you can be informed without being deceived. And here on this particular story of Trump winning the election, you can see the bias distribution. 36% of the sources lean left, 30% lean right, 34% are considered center. So that's a relatively even split. You don't see that on most stories. It's usually a very left bias distribution. Only Ground News offers that. So if you want to be informed with none of the deception, go to ground.news/JPReacts. And when you use my link for a limited time only, Ground News gives you a full 50% off unlimited access. Check it out now.
So that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications. So many judges have seen so many applications that they know were wrong, or at least they must have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied to. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption.
Woo! Deep state spying, censorship, and corruption. All their classified documents on such things will be exposed. Kind of like the sound of that.
And there are plenty of them. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy.
I love that. There's been so much domestic terrorism happening. And quite frankly, I think the deep state is the primary culprit of domestic terrorism. I think there's been so many people in government. And currently, for the next 71 or so days, there are particular people that sit in the Oval Office who I consider to be domestic terrorists.
When possible, we will press criminal charges. Sixth, we will make every Inspector General's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee, so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign.
That's been proven true. And did you know Obama passed some kind of law that allows the CIA to publish propaganda? Did you know that? I learned that from Joe Rogan's podcast not too long ago. And of course, the law says, the CIA can publish propaganda, like make up lies, and they can lie to the American people when it's in the best interest of national security. From their perspective, I'm sure it is in the best interest of the communist national security that they've been culpable in trying to usher in. But that looks like it's coming to an end.
Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Just as I moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado, as many as 100,000 government positions could be moved out, and I mean immediately, of Washington to places filled with patriots who love America, and they really do love America. Ninth, I will work to ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with that they regulate. So they deal with these companies and they regulate these companies, and then they want to take jobs from these companies. Doesn't work that way.
There's been so many examples. I think most recently, what's his name? Scott Gatlab, head of the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. Yeah, one of their primary things is they regulate drug companies. So the head of the FDA does his FDA thing and then goes to work for Pfizer. That hasn't happened just once. It's happened many times. And of course, drug companies, I think they do some good and I think they do some bad, and they do some real bad. And President Trump, what he's saying right now, and I'm sure RFK Jr. is going to have a hand in this. He made a statement the other day that there will be some departments of the FDA completely cleared out, by the way, within minutes of him saying that. Pfizer stock, Moderna stock drops by 4%. How y'all doing? So putting an end to that, where Washington bureaucrats that regulate the companies are then hired by the companies. So in other words, quit having the drug companies regulate the FDA that regulates them. It's just an incestuous circle. So putting an end to that, is that in the best interest of the deep state? No. Anything that's in the best interest of the deep state has the polar opposite impact on we the people. Is it, in fact, in the best interest of we the people? Absolutely.
A public display cannot go on, and it's taking place all the time, like with Big Pharma. Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people. Thank you very much.
Ooh, and bringing it home with term limits for Congress. I love that. I love that. So no longer having like the Nancy Pelosi's. How long have you been in Congress? 140 years? Okay, you've got some corruption established and it ain't going anywhere. So the cool thing with term limits that I love the best, two things actually. One, if there's a corrupt actor in Congress, even if they're not sniffed out and somehow removed, and I doubt that would actually happen, but if there is a corrupt actor, they'll have, let's just say the term limit is 2 terms. They'll have 8 years. They'll have somewhere between 4 and 8 years to do their corruption. That is an improvement versus they'll have their whole career to do corruption. They'll have 40 years to do corruption. So that's an amazing improvement. The other thing I really like about term limits for Congress is it motivates the Congress members to serve their constituents better rather than serving their donors better. Because if someone's always coming up, hey, I have my congressional seats up for re-election next term it's up for re-election, they're like doing like Congress a little bit, and they're doing a lot of campaigning, a lot of fundraising, and doing a lot of making their donors happy, which is not always in the best interest of the people that those Congress folks represent. So if there's Congress limits, it's kind of like, hey, I've got 1 term, maybe 2 terms. Which means I don't need to worry about re-election all the time, which means I can pay attention to the people, serve them better, rather than always looking to keep the donors happy at the expense of the will of the people. This video by President Trump saying he will dismantle the deep state and backing it up with an actual plan that's simply articulated, yet well articulated. For as brief as this video is, it's a very detailed plan, and I'm sure each point has a lot of other nuances to it. But this is a very exciting dismantle the deep state plan, and this is absolutely one of the reasons why so many of us voted for Trump, because we are shifting the power back. It's already in our hands. It's in the hands of we the people, and dismantling the deep state. That's what happens when the power is back in the hands of we the people. And we have someone, President Trump, actually representing the interests of we the people. I am here for it. Let me know what you think of President Trump's plan to dismantle the deep state. Do you think it will actually happen? Let me know your thoughts, and I'll look forward to seeing you on our next video. But until then, keep pooping yourself, deep state.